little bit of a tough time.
Yep.
With CrossFit Mayhem.
Elly, something we want to get out there and we want to talk about. Back at the Reykjavik Championship, Elly came back with a positive test for clenbuterol. We're going to let her kind of talk through it, and it's still an ongoing investigation, and you're still working through the process. You have a lawyer talking to CrossFit, so there's certain things that can be said and cannot be said. So we'll just talk about it and taking ownership as an athlete of the things you. And we believe you. We stand beside you that you did not knowingly take anything, and whether it's a tainted supplements are getting tested, or tainted meat. That could be it. But we know you as a person. We know you as an athlete, and know that how many years have you been competing, and you've never once had a positive test and been tested numerous times. So, and the amount of whatever substance was in this test is very, and not making excuses whatsoever, because it was a positive test, but is kind of a gray area in the almost points to what you're saying happened. So we'll let you kind of talk from there, because you know more about it than we do, and it's something you've been going through for the past 3 or 4 weeks now. So.
Mm-hmm. Just to be, fully transparent and try to take everyone through the process as openly as possible. It was like a couple weeks after the Iceland Championships. I was just at home. It was after Rogue, sitting on my bike erg, and I was about to pull up a podcast, and a message dropped down that said failed drug test. And I just assumed that it was, from CrossFit in general discussing failed drug tests. So I click on it, and it had a sample number. And it said I tested positive for clenbuterol. So it was almost like in slow motion. Kyle was sitting in the garage with me, and I looked up and I said, "What's clenbuterol?" And he goes, "I don't know why." And I said, "I just failed my drug test." So I went and I called Rich immediately, and I told him, I've never in my life taken a drug that was not prescribed to me. And I would never, Rich, Hillary, my teammates and the Mayhem family, they are my family, and I would never in this universe jeopardize their futures. And that was really the hardest part for me. Just a little background about clenbuterol. It's right now a very controversial drug. There have been a lot of positive tests for contamination from meat and supplements. It just has a long history of contamination. My results were less than 1 billionth of a gram, which is really, really, really small and consistent with a supplement or meat contamination. That being said, I am 100% responsible for everything I put in my body. And I don't want anyone else to have to go through something like this. And I'm going to make sure there are documents. I've already created them of everything I've eaten entire week leading up to Iceland, while in Iceland, so that everyone knows everything I put in my body. And I have an entire list of supplements and time that I took those that I'm going to share with you guys too. So hopefully that you can see, and I'm testing every single supplement and investigating further meat contamination, but that's all going to take a little bit of time.
You have hired an attorney. There's a whole process to
trying to prolong the, process with CrossFit, trying to actually communicate with CrossFit, which is difficult at times, but
right. I'm working with Howard Jacobs. He's incredible. Has a long history of this. He knows everything there is to know about it, and he's just been so incredible. He helped me read my lab results and helped me understand what I was seeing. But I think, we requested CrossFit give us an additional 2 weeks for the investigation, because testing, I had around I don't know, it's like 15 supplements or so. Takes time, as well as trying to locate sources of meat. It takes quite a bit of time and investigation. So we asked for the 2 weeks, but they've denied that. Which we were really disappointed with, because we felt like we should be allowed to have a reasonable amount of time to find these things. There are some details about this case that I think are paramount in exposing the truth, but that I can't share right now.
It's fine. Yeah, we can, once everything's, I guess, final, or once the legal battle or whatever you want to call it, investigation is final, then we can give the rest of the details. But what we wanted to do is get out and let you tell people, and when because it will drop soon, we want to have this ready to where you can tell your side of the story.
Be out in front of it.
But I mean, I want people to know, like, this is important, especially regarding those details.
Right.
These are details I need to share with every CrossFitter. They need to know this for their protection as athletes within the CrossFit organization and as athletes in general. And that is something I'm very committed to sharing and making sure everyone knows. Mm-hmm. So as this journey unfolds, I will come back with more information that if you're a CrossFit athlete and you want to compete, you need to hear this and you need to understand this for your protection and for your safety moving forward.
It's valid. Yeah, I mean, 100%. But I mean, what you're saying too is you're taking responsibility. Like, it is, it is our
there were instances, and again, like, I want people to come back with questions. I want people to ask me things, because yes, there were, plenty of the supplements I was taking.
You take some hippie stuff.
Yeah, I do. Was drug-free sport.
Right.
But the other ones, there were plenty of ones, and I've talked about it many times, that were not, and I was naive in thinking, because to your point, I've been drug tested my entire time at the University of Florida as an athlete for years of my life. I've been drug tested after every regional and every CrossFit game. I've always been drug tested, so it gave me, I think, maybe a comfort of, if I want to take my hippie stuff, it's not a big deal.
Right.
And even I made the mistake in Iceland, and I will stand up and say it, of saying, I started to get a scratchy throat early in the week. So I looked at Kyle and I was like, Kyle, I need zinc, I need echinacea, and I need vitamin C. Can you go get that for me? So he went out and got it. And one of the bottles that's top on my list of being tested right now is in a different language. It's in Icelandic. Right. And mind you, it looks like it says zinc and echinacea. That was naive, and that was ignorant. And as a professional athlete, I should have known better. Mm-hmm. And that was a mistake. Is that a mistake that cost me contamination? I don't know, but I'm going to investigate that. So
explain maybe for somebody who's watching, when you guys say hippie stuff, what do you mean? Because
mushrooms.
So
some of the products are really well-known companies,
right? So they're, for instance, like, again, it might be too much information, but it's just the reality of the situation. So earlier in the season, I wasn't feeling well, and I've always gone to like holistic herbs and things. Right. When I'm not feeling well. I've always had an acupuncturist, and it's always helped me whenever I wasn't feeling well. So our PT was working on me one day, and she's like, have you been feeling well? And I was like, no, actually, like, I've had some like stuff, like female stuff going on that's way outside the norm. I've been on the same things my entire life.
Right.
As a female, and it was just outside the norm. So I looked up herbs for hormonal balance, which is just ashwagandha and maca. So I was taking an ashwagandha supplement and a maca supplement, which, yeah, you could say very well hippie stuff. Right. And it really did make me feel good.
Right.
And the mushroom thing he's talking about was a brand that I mixed with my pre-workout, and it had adaptogens and all that same stuff to make you feel better.
Right.
And honestly, I thought I felt better.
Right.
Could that have been a mistake? Could have been a huge mistake. And I 100% take responsibility for putting every single protein shake, powder, piece of meat, whatever it was in my body.
Right.
And I will, like I said, I will provide everyone with an entire list so they know.
Well, that's another thing too, is, clenbuterol. I'd never heard of it. I don't even know what it is.
I didn't either.
Until I started looking it up after. And there's been a couple cases where tainted supplements in years past, but then there's also been recently meat has had a lot of countries, or some countries, not a lot of countries, a lot in South America, right? There's a UFC fighter, a couple UFC fighters that have tested positive because some meat places use clenbuterol because it's more of it's a leaning.
What I read was that it's a cutting
agent, and then also
a bronchodilator,
so it would help breathing. But I mean, it's used for asthma and stuff like that.
Right.
So
I don't think that it's for anything that would improve a CrossFit athlete's performance, in my opinion.
It's not a steroid.
No,
Yeah.
bronchodilator, it can help you
about.
breathe better, but it depends on how it's taken, I guess. If it's orally, then yes. If it's, I mean,
some of the things that when I looked it up, like some of the fat burning products, you could go to GNC
right.
and purchase
over
the counter, have it in it.
A lot of bodybuilders use it, from what I read, and then. But like I said, there's a lot of cases in meat in South America, especially. And I mean, I don't know anything about Iceland's meat and how is it. It's got a lot of it's got to be imported, so there's no telling.
It's all part of the investigation. But I mean, that's the other point I'm making too. Is my result less than 1/1000th of a gram, 100 picograms, is consistent with. And from what I've read and heard,
did you say 100 or 1 picogram? What was
100
that? 100 picograms,
which is. What did I say? It's 50 times less than 5 nanograms, which is usually a minimum standard of concern for that drug in many organizations. So to have 50 times less than that is consistent with something you consumed. Also, from research and what I've read, it's something that most likely was consumed within 48 hours of my test.
Right.
So that's also something when I'm like I said, I'm going to release everything I ate when I ate it, to the best of my knowledge, obviously.
Within 48 hours.
Right. So if I were looking and studying and researching it, I would really look within that 48 hour, if anyone out there knows anything about please help.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
What are the other things that you think, kind of right now are important to say? The things.
I mean, it was just my last point that it takes a lot of courage to trust people, and I just wanted to thank you guys for supporting me.
Yeah,
we know, but and that's the thing is, I mean, as an athlete, when you hear people say, "Well, I didn't take anything," and from far back, you're like, yeah, right. Like, but we know you as a person. We know you're part of our family. Like, we know you didn't take anything. And so that's the hard part now is
I just don't want this to happen to anyone else.
Yeah,
and that's why,
sense.
This investigation's going to be over and the CrossFit can do whatever they want now, but I'm going to see it through. Every supplement I test is $550.
Yep.
But I will fight with every fiber of my being to make sure that someone else doesn't have to go through this in this sport. And it's a concern now because of the way certain organizations are choosing to handle the amount of this.
Right, the level of it. I think what I heard you say earlier too was really important here on the front end of this, and it's the message is, hey man, you are responsible for what goes in your body.
Yep.
That's a big deal. And so that's certainly something that we have to own up to for sure.
Be careful when you're traveling to events.
Be careful.
Be careful with your
attention.
supplements. If they're not tested, don't take them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of different, what are the organizations out there that...
Informed Choice, Informed Sport. I know Advocare, because they had this problem back a long time ago.
Same.
And they had it in 2005, they had this problem. So now all of their stuff gets tested by a third party.
Yeah.
But I mean, you want to look on your, whatever supplements you take, you want to make sure it says Informed Choice or Informed Sport. You probably Informed Sport's better, but they're tested by a third party. And that's the hard part is as an athlete, you're like, this couldn't happen to me. Like, it's just protein,
right?
But you don't know what was in another, and it might not even be that supplement had it in it, but it was in another vat that was used to mix it, and it's in there, and it's part of and so that's why it's so important that you make sure that whatever you take is because FDA doesn't check supplements, it doesn't make sure this stuff is right. And it's kind of the Wild West of...
For sure, you can go on Amazon and buy something that's tainted.
For sure.
I mean, also the other considerations are you should go to the World Anti-Doping Association, WADA's website, because again, like, would I ever in my life have gone to another country and not consumed meat unless I thought it was like another animal? And even then, I probably would have been like, ooh, that looks like chicken.
Right.
No, I wouldn't have. So you need to go to that organization's website. And if you're traveling internationally for competition or whatever you're doing, read about it.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have even known those things to be careful of. Supplements, sure.
Right.
But there are other
meat,
flags that are up around. And as an athlete, it's your responsibility.
Which is crazy, yeah.
I understand it. Well, this is kind of like part one of where we're at.
Yeah.
And so the important piece was
just getting it out there, talking about it. That way, a lot of times you see somebody gets popped for something and you want to, you don't ever hear their story and they just kind of fade into the distance. We're not going to let that happen. We want to be out forefront about it and talk about it and have the conversations that need to be had, and it won't be the end.
What is kind of the next step, legally? Where are you headed now?
Again, just working with Howard to continue our investigation. We're just not going to stop until we've exhausted or found, we're investigating meat and supplements. So we're going to exhaust that and hopefully we find what we are looking for. And then at which point, once some other parts of the investigation close, we can share those pieces with you, which please, CrossFit community, these are details of things you need to hear and you need to understand for your safety. And then we'll be able to share things like that. But right now we can't.
You have taken the supplements that you have been using and you're sending all those out to have them tested. And
so how it works and why we asked for our extension, we asked for 2 weeks, which we didn't think was unreasonable. But even so, we're taking 4 at a time. Obviously associated with the cost in which, and they can only test them quickly. So we took the first,
the Icelandic ones, right?
Yeah, we took the hippie ones and the Iceland ones first, and then we're gonna go from there. So we just have to start with 4 at a time.
Right. So it's a process, and it's a longer process than what CrossFit's going to allow.
Right. So it'll probably come out, and that's when this will come out.
And we'll have this so that we can kind of be out in front of it. And I think you're open to answering questions and communicating.
If anyone has any questions, like I said, I'm going to release
positive questions. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. There's no reason.
Like I said, I'm gonna release everything I consumed and every supplement I've been taking, and I'm gonna keep an ongoing list of things that have cleared and not cleared, and things that are drug-free sport and all those things, just so you know. But if there's anything else that you have for me around the topic, please feel free to ask. I'm an open book, and I want to help you guys in any way that I can.
I think, and I want to say to you, and I know Rich and I talked about this, but we love you.
Yep.
And
we're here.
You 100%, even outside of CrossFit and CrossFit things, you make our life better. And I've not ever been around somebody who shows more grace and compassion and care for other people. And so we just want to publicly make sure you know that and have your back.
Like we said, you're part of the family,
100%.
and it's going to be okay.
We'll get through it.
Yep.
Thanks,
Peace.
guys.